So let's see yours.
Okay, sure. So I started after WWDC in 2008, working with Ian Layton on making public transit applications. And so we started with the BART system in the Bay Area. We made this application called iBART. So BART stands for Bay Area Rapid Transit. And so our idea was we wanted to make it easier for people to use. So often people look at public transit and are a little scared because they don't have enough information available. They don't know where the nearest station is, what the, when to transfer, what times things are going to arrive and all that. And so we wanted to make it really easy. And so we thought we could leverage the capabilities of the iPhone to do that. So we started with iBART. I'm actually going to show you the sequel to iBART, which is iBART Live, which is very similar, but it has some extra features. So I'm going to open that up here. So generally, you probably recognize the anatomy of an iPhone application. You've got this tab bar along the bottom with kind of key sections. So the most important section is the trip planner. That's for our main target user. So people who they don't know what train they need to take, or they just want to verify things. And so we provide a lot of information to them. So
let's say I go to the Bay Area and
yes.
I'm there as a tourist.
Yes.
And I have my iPhone and this application and
yes.
I want to know how to reach a place. So I click there.
Yes, you click. So you launch the app and it opens up to there. Then this little blue button here, you can press that to get the location of the nearest station. So I'm not sure if it'll work here, but you can press it. It'll use GPS to find the closest station. So you press OK. And so it'll calculate. It'll use GPS or whatever other location information it can get, and it'll find the nearest station. So that's step one. And so here we are in Venice, so it might not quite know what to do. So the GPS may not be working. All right, so apparently it decided on the airport. And so that works. And so then let's say you want to pick your destination. So you could select the to section. You can flip through. And so let's say we wanted to go to, I don't know, let's pick downtown Berkeley again. And that could be it. You could press show trips and you could see the results. Now if you wanted to change the time, let's say instead of departing now, I wanted to arrive on Friday. You could do that. So then you specified your trip, and when you decide you want to see the results, you press show trips, and there you go. So you have some general information along the top, like when is it arriving, on what day, here's how long it's going to take, and there's how much it's going to cost.
Yep.
And this is the origin, so this should look familiar. You specified the airport, and you wanted to go to downtown Berkeley.
Yep.
And so these are the different times. And so essentially, this is the start time on the left column, and this is the end time along the right. And the idea is you start at San Francisco, you take the Pittsburgh Bay Point train, and then you transfer at 12th Street, Oakland City Center, and then you arrive at Richmond at 7:33. Okay. And then these are different options, and they're sorted sequentially here.
Okay.
And all right, so next, if you wanted to see more information, like
so I pick this option.
Right. So this is actually, this screen provides enough information to decide which trip you want to take. So you'll notice these two start at the same time, but this one ends later. If you wanted to transfer at San Bruno, you could take this one, but you probably want to take this one.
Okay.
So let's say you pick it. Now you have all the information. You can see exactly what time you transfer and what time the next train starts. So this is where you get off the first train. The next train starts immediately after that. So it's a time transfer. That kind of information is helpful. If you want to see it on a map, let's say you want to see the endpoint on a map. Then we can load in a Google map and it'll drop the pin there. So there we are in downtown Berkeley. And so that's the general flow for planning a trip. Now, people usually like to have more information than that. And so we've also provided a map. And so we didn't like the generic BART map, and we didn't like Google Maps because it was just too much information. We wanted it to be very simple for planning within the system. And so we had an artist, in the case of BART, actually, an artist made this map for us. And we've actually now asked him to make us other subway maps for other systems. But we put this map in here, and I think it's a pretty elegant map. And all right, so next, this is iBART Live and not iBART. The difference between the two is iBART Live is more commuter-oriented, people who use this every day. And so Live means you can find out when the trains will be arriving instead of when they're supposed to be. And so BART, they installed transponders in their subway, like in their trains. And so essentially you can actually see where they are. So you could get a location. So what we do is let's say we pick a station. You can ask, okay, I'm in Berkeley. So if you know where you are and you know what train you want to take, you can essentially look by station. So to clarify, let's say I'm in Berkeley and I know I want to take the Richmond train. Then you can see that it arrives in 1 minute, 9 minutes, and 15 minutes. And all this information is live. And they start pulsing.
So this is actually live now. I mean,
Yes.
That's happening in 1 minute time. In Richmond, the train will arrive, right?
Exactly. So, and they start pulsing as the trains get closer to kind of give it more of a sense of immediacy. So I tried not to go over the top, but I thought it would be helpful to kind of flash that a little bit. And another thing that's neat about this is we discovered that.
How do you actually? Sorry,
Go
David. How do you actually do that?
That's a good question. So there's BART as a government agency. They were more forward-looking than most, and so they gave us something called an API. So they gave us access to this information. So we basically asked them, where are the trains? We just go to this web page and we pull out that information and we process it. So it was thanks much to BART actually making that available.
So BART is producing this data.
Yes. And so their idea.
So they are constantly monitoring all their trains.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
And yeah, so one of the other things about this that's a little unusual is that while there are other applications that do real-time information for BART, this one has a fallback mechanism. Because it already has the schedules there, let's say you go underground, which would be a really common occurrence. Most people, when they're about to board the train, it's pretty likely they're going to lose their signal. If you have an application that's solely dependent on real-time data, the second you go underground, you don't know any longer when your train is going to arrive. And so what this will do, I can't really simulate it now because we do have an internet connection.
Yeah.
But what this will do is this will fall back. So if you can't refresh, it'll throw up an alert saying, hey, would you like to fall back on schedule information? So it would be the equivalent of pressing this button.
Yeah.
And so this now shows the schedules. So this is what time things are supposed to arrive.
Okay.
So at the very least, if you don't have the real-time data, you can show the schedules.
Okay. Probably Google Maps like kind of revolution.
Yeah.
The way people started to see these things, right?
I think
you were
Google
criticizing
Maps.
it before, right? Saying that it's too messy.
Well, what's interesting about Google Maps is they have to target everybody. And so when you go into Google Maps, you have to be able to plan a trip from anywhere to anywhere. In fact, if you plan it on one continent, from one continent to another, it'll tell you to kayak across the ocean. Now that's just kind of more of a joke, but in general, it has to factor in every single transit system and every single mode of transportation, and it has to show a lot. And so the problem with that is if you're very regional, if you're commuting, then it's kind of an excess of information, and it's not very tailored. So if in trying to accommodate everyone, you kind of lose out for specific areas. So the approach we took for BART was, okay, well, this is a specific region. There's a map. So for example, if you look at the map, we don't need to put all of the information about all of the streets and other things like that. So you can kind of focus it. And same with the trip planning. And so it allows a little more focus. And so what we found was when Google Transit came out for the iPhone, which allowed you to plan public transit trips, because it was more complicated, we were still expecting a lot of people would use that instead of our app. What happened when Google Transit came out for the iPhone was more people downloaded our application. People realized, oh, I can use my iPhone for public transit, but Google Transit isn't necessarily exactly what I want. Maybe it's good for, Google Maps is good for planning a road trip, but for taking BART, people realized that it might be better to get something more tailored.
That's interesting, very interesting. Okay, David, so thank you. Happy birthday again.
Thank you.
See you later.